move to silence the opposition, or has the opposition simply been unwilling to engage in a dialogue? We'll raise that question. Also among our other newsmakers tonight, Raghuram Rajan, former RBI governor, on his latest book and joining the freebie debate. That's coming up. But first, as always, it's time for the 9 headlines at 9. A massive uproar in Parliament as the opposition continues to protest against 14 MPs being suspended. The Congress questions why no action yet against BJP MP Pratap Simha, who issued the passes to those who intruded inside Parliament. Key Parliament breach accused Lalit Jha remanded to 7 days police custody. Lalit allegedly destroyed all the accused phones. Bhajan Lal Sharma takes oath as Rajasthan's Chief Minister. Diya Kumari, Premchand Bairwa sworn in as deputies. Former RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan joins the freebies Revdi debate, calls the old pension scheme being done a bad idea, says focus should be on better targeted welfare schemes. Supreme Court refuses to stay an Allahabad High Court order allowing survey of Mathura's disputed Eidgah Mosque in the Krishna Janmabhoomi case. 9 years after being accused of raping a minor, BJP's Dudhi MLA Ram Dulare Gond sentenced to 25 years in jail, fined 10 lakh rupees. He faces disqualification. ISRO eyes another moon mission. The space agency's chairman S. Somnath says they will launch Chandrayaan 4 next to bring back rock samples from the moon. Markets continue their record run as Sensex and Nifty touch new all-time highs. Sensex tops a historic 71,000 points for the first time. And in a tribute to Captain Cool MS Dhoni's contribution to cricket, BCCI retires jersey number 7, which belonged to the former India captain. But our top story tonight, where politics has intensified over the Parliament security breach case. Both houses of Parliament were adjourned yet again today, minutes after they assembled, amidst an uproar from the opposition. The opposition MPs protested in front of the Gandhi statue in the Parliament premises. The Congress and the opposition is questioning that while their MPs are being suspended, why has no action been taken against the BJP MP Pratap Simha, under whose name passes were issued to those who intruded the Lok Sabha? It's our top story tonight.
It's been 3 days since Parliament security was breached. The opposition has scaled up its attacks on the Narendra Modi government over the breach, demanding a reply by the Union Home Minister. The only statement by Home Minister Shah on the issue came in an exclusive interview to India Today. He condemned the breach and accused the opposition of politicizing the serious incident.
ये बड़ा गंभीर मसला है और लोकसभा अध्यक्ष जी ने इसका गंभीर संज्ञान लिया है। विपक्ष इस पर राजनीति कर रहा है। मैं ऐसा नहीं कह रहा कि इसमें कहीं ना कहीं कोई चूक नहीं हुई। चूक निश्चित हुई, तभी तो घटना हुई है, परंतु इस पर राजनीति करें।
Opposition parliamentarians are upset that the Home Minister made the statement in a media interview at a time the House is in session.
मैं तो आज तक को बधाई दूंगा कि जो काम सदन नहीं कर पाया, कम से कम आज तक ने उनसे ये कहला तो दिया कि घटना हुई है, वरना तो देश के गृह मंत्री का इतिहास की भीषणतम घटना के बाद भी जहां पे सुरक्षा घेरा तोड़ दिया गया, कूद गया उसके अंदर और वहां स्मोक बम डाल दिए और गृह मंत्री जी कह रहे हैं उनकी कोई जिम्मेदारी नहीं।
The India Alliance members on Friday disrupted Parliament proceedings and forced adjournment till Monday. They are questioning the suspension of opposition MPs from Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. The opposition claims the government's hypocrisy is exposed as it expelled Mahua Moitra citing national security but is shielding its own MP Pratap Simha, who issued the visitors' passes to the intruders. A protest was held by the suspended MPs and others in front of the Gandhi statue in Parliament.
This is supposed to be a parliamentary system. When Parliament is in session, the first place to which any government minister is accountable is Parliament. He should have come here and spoken. That could have diffused the entire crisis. How can the Home Minister feel that his principal channel for communication has to be the mass media rather than the actual Lok Sabha? He was elected to it. He should come here and tell the people.
Meanwhile, the BJP mounted an all-out attack on the TMC. Party's IT cell chief, Amit Malviya, posted pictures of alleged conspirator Lalit Jha with TMC leader Tapas Roy. Another picture of Jha with another TMC leader Rajesh Shukla was also shared. Tapas Roy has rejected the allegations.
এই যেটা বলছে যে আমার ঘনিষ্ঠ, আমি ললিত ঝা বলে কাউকে চিনি না, চেহারাতে নয় এবং নামে নয়। আমি ভাবছি যে এটাকে নিয়ে ওরা তো কথায় কথায় হাইকোর্ট আর আদালত দেখায়, আমি ভাবছি যে টুইটটা এবার জোগাড় করে আমি হাইকোর্টে যাব।
As the BJP and the opposition get busy with blame game, the grave issue of parliament security is getting lost in the din. Bureau Report, India Today.
So is the suspension of MPs in Parliament only designed to silence the opposition? Are we seeing what is being described by some as politics of obstruction by the opposition? Is there one-upmanship over Parliament security? Some of the questions I will raise, especially on suspensions. Sanjay Hegde, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court is with us. Mohan Kumar Mangalam, Congress spokesperson, is with us. And GVL Narasimha Rao, the BJP spokesperson, also joining us. And I want to turn to you, Mr. Narasimha Rao, first, because I want to put a graphic before you. Between 2004 and 14, Mr. Narasimha Rao, during UPA 1 and 2, there were 50 suspensions, 50 between 2004 and 14. Between 2014 and 23, Mr. Narasimha Rao, as of today, we've already had 123 suspensions. So the dramatic number, it's not in percentage, it's numbers, have gone up from 50 to 123. It seems that the government's reflex action, anyone questions them, anyone protests, suspend them.
That absolutely is a very wrong interpretation, Rajdeep. It clearly tells how the functioning of Parliament has been disrupted by the UPA, while NDA was a responsible opposition. And therefore, obviously, the number of suspensions were far less. In the last, ever since Prime Minister Modi ji became Prime Minister in 2014, we have seen a lot of intolerance from the opposition. The Congress always thought, or Rahul Gandhi or Gandhi family felt it was their preserve. And how come a man from Gujarat, a man from a very poor and a humble background, how can he become Prime Minister with a majority of his own? So it is this intolerance which led to very disruptive behavior in Parliament, and never, if the presiding officers, whether it is in Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, suspension is a very extreme action. They are only...
No, but that's the point, sir. The extreme action is becoming routine. In every session, it's happening. You're saying that the BJP MPs were far better behaved when they were in the opposition. The truth is, the BJP would block session after session. When the UPA was in power, you will recall, especially between 2010 and 12, and yet it wasn't as if the MPs were being suspended in such a routine manner.
Rajdeep, I think people recall those days, how massive scams running into lakhs of crores of rupees were perpetrated during the UPA era. And certainly, taking up the public side in Parliament was mandated by the UPA, by the NDA.
No, absolutely, you had every right, but no one, you weren't suspended. You're right that you all were taking up what you believed were the public causes on corruption, but you weren't being suspended in a routine manner. Now, whenever any opposition MP tries to raise his or her voice, first of all, there are no debates, fewer debates that take place, and if they demand a debate and enter the well of the House, they get suspended.
Rajdeep, no, suspension doesn't happen because somebody is simply seeking a debate. That happens only when you completely paralyze Parliament. You do not even listen to the presiding officers. You misuse your authority as members of Parliament, and you militate against public interest. When the BJP protested in Parliament, is what public interest. Had they dared to suspend more people, the UPA would have suffered even greater. The suspension, they were not large-hearted as you seem to think. They were compelled not to take any more actions because they were in the wrong. They
Okay.
were forced to get a number of ministers to resign during the UPA era because that was a very egregiously corrupt government. But today, the protests are not about public interest. Quite often, you see the protests being raised only for the sake of their political objection or political intolerance towards the BJP.
Can
We've
I-
seen how sessions have been washed out on issues which completely disappear. Issue begins one day before Parliament session starts, and the issue evaporates one day after the Parliament session concludes.
Okay,
That clearly shows that these are
GVL,
premeditated plans.
you're claiming that these are premeditated political acts not in the public interest. Mohan Kumaramangalam, respond to what you've just heard from GVL Narasimha Rao.
Mr. Narasimha Rao saying that the BJP was a responsible opposition is something that I don't think anyone will ever believe. The entire 15th Lok Sabha session was washed out because of the allegations they made. He's still maintaining those allegations and none of them have been proven true. There's not only, Rajdeep, the numbers you mentioned in terms of almost more than doubling number of suspensions from UPA versus NDA, but also there's a rising trend in these bulk suspensions. The 16th Lok Sabha, I think in 2014 saw the highest number of suspensions with 49 members being suspended in one session. So the BJP has been trying different ways to sort of to refuse to hear the voice of the opposition. And they've, turned off mics, they've muted transmissions on television. They've done everything they possibly could. Even when a member of the opposition is speaking, they try on Doordarshan to actually show the speaker on Lok Sabha TV versus showing the person who's speaking. And now they finally got to suspending the opposition altogether. They have dismissed MPs on frivolous charges only to have them come back. They have now expelled a member of parliament. But when it comes to their own members of parliament, no matter how horrendous the language they use, like Ramesh Biduri, he's just let off with a slap on the wrist. Or it doesn't matter that the incident that's happened here, which is probably the most severe incident in the last 22 years in Parliament, which has to be taken with all seriousness. And since they are talking about UAPA charges, it is with complete seriousness that the government is looking at this, that even then, the MP who issued the passes is just been given a warning and let off. Whereas now you have MPs, what are we asking for? What is the opposition asking for? They're merely asking for the person responsible in government, the highest person, that is the Home Minister, to come and address them. The BJP was asking for the resignation of the Prime Minister in 2013, using all sorts of language, which is completely unparliamentary language against him, asking for his resignation, and we didn't suspend him then. And here we have all we're asking for him is to come and address the House.
No, yours.
And for that, he's being suspended.
No, yours. Yes, GVL, please respond.
No, Rajdeep, I think this is the most atrocious demand I have ever heard. What on earth? Home Minister does not control, he does not have the superintendence of the security of the Parliament. Entire Parliament complex, not just Lok Sabha complex, Lok Sabha chamber, the entire Parliament compound is under the control of Lok Sabha Speaker. He is the one who supervises everything, including security.
Oh, please.
The Home Minister
this is ridiculous.
No, one minute, one by one.
Home Minister does not look after the security inside Parliament compound.
But GVL, you will also agree that a statement from the Home Minister, if it can be a very basic statement about the inquiry going on, this unwillingness to face the opposition in Parliament when the issues become uncomfortable and inconvenient. That's the worry.
No, I think it's you can't expect. You see, if there was any thing related to internal security in the country, obviously, Honorable Home Minister could have been asked to make a statement. Here, the only one who is competent to make such a statement is the Honorable Speaker himself. And Honorable Speaker time and again stated in Parliament, in Lok Sabha, that an inquiry is underway. He has given some details of it. He has held a meeting with the floor leaders of all political parties. I think does the opposition? I want I have a straight question. I want to answer.
Can I just for a moment, GVL?
Rajdeep, no, hold on.
One line.
Yeah,
this
let
is
him
ridiculous,
complete.
Rajdeep.
Let him complete. Yes, GVL,
Does
complete.
the opposition want the government to take over Parliament? Do they want Parliament to lose its own independent autonomous status and government should run Parliament? Please ask them.
Okay, Mr.
I'm glad,
Kumaraswamy.
no. I'm
Mangalam.
really glad he asked that question, Rajdeep, because maybe he should be reminded that the government, which is the executive, is accountable to Parliament. The Parliament is in the country. The Home Minister should be coming to Parliament and talking about the most severe attack that's happened in Parliament for the last 22 years. He can't brush off and abdicate his responsibility towards the Speaker. This is ludicrous. And what
Okay,
are we saying? We are exactly saying that. We're saying as an executive, you are accountable to Parliament. Why are you running away from
Or
accountability?
not about what happens
Come and
inside
make
Okay,
Parliament.
statement in Parliament.
Sir, I'll just put down your faders for a moment. I'm coming back to both of you. I just want to go to Sanjay Hegde, who's listening patiently, because Sanjay, I want to come into the law of suspension. And I want to give our viewers before this a sense of the history of this, Sanjay. Let's look at suspension of MPs over the years, because it is fascinating when you look at it. The first person to be suspended was a Congress leader. Godi Murariri was suspended in September 1962 when Jawaharlal Nehru was Prime Minister. He was the first prominent suspension to take place. Then Raj Narayan, the famous giant killer who defeated Indira Gandhi in the 1977 elections, was suspended 4 times between 66 and 74 for taking on Indira Gandhi's government. The biggest mass suspension, interestingly, took place when the Congress was in power in 1989. 63 Lok Sabha MPs were suspended. They were protesting over the Thakkar panel report on Indira Gandhi's assassination. In 2010, 7 Rajya Sabha MPs were suspended. They had heckled Vice President Hamid Ansari, who was in the chair. The MPs also tore the women's quota bill that was tabled at that time. 18 Lok Sabha MPs were suspended in 2014. They were protesting over the Telangana statehood issue. Meera Kumar was the speaker then. In 2019, a Lok Sabha speaker suspended 45 MPs over 2 days. The MPs were from the AIDMK and TDP. The AIDMK MPs were protesting over the Kaveri water issue and TDP MPs over Andhra's special status. But as we've said, in the last 10 years, we've had the maximum number of suspensions, 123 and counting. Do you believe, Sanjay Hegde, suspensions now, which were the exception, have become the rule, because this is the only way the chair believes you can send out a firm message?
Well, a lot depends on the personality of the chair. There have been chairs which have controlled business with humor, with tact, with understanding. There have also been governments and parliamentary affairs ministers who have reached across the aisle. You know, at the height of the Indochina War, we in Parliament discussed it. There was even an instance when Pandit Nehru said that, look, nothing grows in Aksai Chin, not even a blade of grass. There was Mahavir Tyagi who stood up, took off his cap, showed his bald head and said, nothing grows on top of this. Do you say it is useless? So we've had Parliament debating things with tact, with humor. Right now, it has become a shouting match, and presiding officers say all too often, go for the whip of suspension, and the House then goes into uproar. And it's very unsightly to see suspended members of Parliament standing outside Parliament and saying what they were prevented from saying within Parliament.
No, the only reason, but the fact, Sanjay, is that the existing rules seem to give a lot of discretion to the chair. Whether it is in the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, it is up to the discretion of the chair to decide. So, are you saying the individual who sits there, whether it's Jagdeep Dhankar or whether it's Om Birla, they are the ones who now seem to have decided if an MP enters the well of the House, suspension, no warnings, suspend them?
Absolutely. That is what I'm saying. I said that the personality of the chair often determines the way proceedings are conducted. So you saw Meera Kumar in the old days keeping on saying "Baith jaiye, baith jaiye, baith jaiye" till it almost became a meme. But a lot of work still got done. Right now, it is okay. You cannot do anything without my permission, and I run a tight ship, and I will suspend you off with your head. To the extent that yesterday a member of parliament got suspended, and he was not even in parliament at that point of time.
Yeah,
So
that was that will go down again as a precedent of sorts. An MP was suspended wrongly. He wasn't even present in the House. But the rules for the viewers, and then I'll get GVL and Mohan Kumar Mangalam once again. Rule 374 says the Speaker may, if he deems it necessary, name a member who disregards the authority of the chair or abuses the rules of the House by persistently and willfully obstructing the business. Later on, during the 13th Lok Sabha, a new rule was added, 374A, which said, in the event of grave disorder occasioned by a member coming into the well of the House or abusing the rules of the House, persistently, willfully obstructing its business by shouting slogans, such member on being named by the Speaker shall stand automatically suspended. You see, Mohan Kumar Mangalam, we've had scenes in this Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha where MPs have been standing on chairs throwing paper. Surely such MPs will be suspended. You can't behave badly and then say, no, don't suspend me. That's unacceptable. Surely a line has to be drawn.
Rajdeep, I'm not disputing that. I think in between the carrot and the stick, as Mr. Sanjay Hegde said very eloquently, I think it depends on the speaker and how he manages the situation. He can very tactfully manage a situation, make sure the MPs who are protesting feel that their concerns are heard, and that the treasury benches don't sort of demonstrate a very unresponsive attitude. Those are the things that lead to this sort of confrontational. The less confrontational it would be, the better it would be, obviously. You know, Rajdeep, it's very interesting that in Mr. Modi's first government in Rajya Sabha, you didn't have any suspensions. That's because the ruling party had fewer seats in the upper house. It's really about the brute majority that they have in the Lok Sabha that makes them feel that they don't need to cajole anyone, they don't need to take anyone along. They can just say whatever they want, behave in any manner they want, and take whatever action they want.
So you're saying that this is example of a brute majority expressing itself in the House. A quick response from you, GVL Narasimha Rao, to that. Yes, I think we all agree. If anyone sort of resorts to behavior that is unruly, some action will be taken. But it seems almost as if the Speaker or the chair are itching to send out a message on each occasion. That's the sense. No. Imagine someone who was not even present in the House. His name was put. That may have been a mistake, but it shows this great urgency to somehow, jitna jyada MPs ko suspend karo, that's a good sign.
No, Rajdeep, I think that's a very unparliamentary word that you have used. I think we should be very careful.
Which was the unparliamentary word, Chief?
Speaker is itching to do something. I think, we should hold such offices in high esteem. You can obviously criticize, you can make observations, but not use such expressions. I take offense to it, number one. Number two, you see, for example, in Rajya Sabha, where I'm a member, Derek O'Brien, you know, how he was trying to gesticulate, almost menacingly going towards the Secretary General, or completely disregarding repeated appeals from the Honorable Chairman, even after his suspension has not happened by the chair. Suspension happened after a resolution is moved and it was carried by a voice vote in the House. These are not decisions made by the presiding officer all by himself. And these are decisions of the House. And how do you expect? How can you allow parliamentary democracy to be derailed because a vocal minority does not want any business to be transacted? A vocal minority wants to hold democracy to ransom.
But GVL Narasimha Rao, explain for me, for example, you will recall during the budget session of Parliament, the treasury benches were the ones who were I hadn't seen a situation where the treasury benches were disrupting Parliament because the word Adani was used. The moment that word was used, immediately it was struck off the formal proceedings. But more importantly, the treasury benches were disrupting, saying Rahul Gandhi maafi mango. My point
Yes,
is,
no.
this seems to be a
Let me
new,
tell you.
a new low or high, whichever way you look at it.
No, Rajdeep, you see, it cannot be. You see, when you have a minority, when you have an opposition which is deliberately trying to derail the discussions in Parliament, is using all kinds of excuses, is trying to really gain political mileage by raking up issues which don't exist.
No, but you're not
Certainly,
willing to have
you
debates. No,
don't
GVL,
expect-
the complaint the opposition has is the government doesn't want to debate inconvenient issues, whether it is China or whether it is Adani.
No, I think Rajdeep, the opposition doesn't have the capacity to debate. I think it's a very poor opposition. I really think they have lost opportunities, several opportunities during debate. During the budget session, they could have raised any issue if they wanted to. They simply wanted to run away from debate. They simply don't have the.
No, were you ready to debate issues like the Adani issue? Was the government ready to debate
In
it?
budget speech, it was repeatedly told to them, when you debate budget, you can raise all these issues. You can raise about any issue concerning the capital markets, anything concerning the private sector. You could have raised all these issues. They simply wanted to run away. They don't want to sit in Parliament morning to evening because they are frustrated. They are not in government. They don't want this government to transact any business that helps people. Today, in this session, they ran away when a bill for scheduled tribes was being passed. When a central university, tribal university was being passed, they ran away. There was a bill which was empowering backward classes. They ran away. So I think opposition does not want people to know that Parliament is transacting very positive business. They simply want disruption and create chaos.
You know, that disruption,
Rajdeep,
according to Arun Jaitley, famously when he was in the opposition, is a legitimate tactic. Or obstruction is a legitimate tactic. But Mohan Kumaramangalam, is there a sign of desperation that the opposition, because it doesn't have the numbers, knows it cannot really set the narrative? The only option left for it is disruption. Why not wait for this report on the security breach for a few days more before you, step into the well of the House?
Rajdeep, the Home Minister can make statements about it outside the House while the Parliament is in session. We can certainly ask for him to come to Parliament and be accountable to Parliament, which is his job. Now, what I'd like to say is, yes, you very rightly pointed out what Mr. Jaitley said, and it was repeated by Mrs. Sushma Swaraj a year later, reinforcing it. Now, Mr. Narasimha Rao has to get his facts straight. Were these MPs suspended so that Parliament could function? Because if you look at their record, and you look at all the budget sessions over the last maybe 5-10 years, they've all been at 100% productivity, except for this budget session, which is about 35% in Lok Sabha, 25% productivity in Rajya Sabha, because they choose to disrupt it only because they didn't want their ultimate boss's name to come into the picture. The second thing is that if they believe that they have done a better job because they've suspended, I feel sad to tell them that their average productivity rate is actually somewhere between the 30 to 40% for all the sessions they've conducted. So that hasn't helped them either. The job of the government is to work with the opposition. Even on the 15th Lok Sabha, which was washed out because of their false allegations that they kept levying every day, we managed to pass the Right to Education Act. We managed to pass the Land Acquisition Act. So there is business that can be conducted with the opposition. You just need to be.
Well, the government,
let me finish. You just need to be more accommodative.
The government will say they've also passed
as well.
They've also passed a number of legislations amidst the din.
They have passed a number of legislations. They are famous for passing everything as a money bill.
Okay,
that's not happening because
just a minute? Can I for a moment, Sanjay Hegde, is there a solution? You see, what is very clear now is that there is this intensely polarized debates taking intense polarization in our politics. Neither side wants to talk to each other. They want to talk at each other. Do you see a solution, or has the parliamentary system broken down that whoever has a brute majority will now push legislation through without a debate?
Well, parliamentarians have to realize that this is the house of democracy where the people have sent them to talk for them. Unless they value their own time, And unless the presiding officers say that, come what may, we will allow the House to go on and we will allow parliamentarians to speak, I do not see a solution. You see, here, there was a precedent itself for this parliamentary breach.
Do we need some change in our, like in the British system where fixed time will be allotted, Prime Minister will also have will answer all questions on a particular day of the week. We need some changes in the way Parliament functions to ensure that there is some dialogue.
Absolutely. The Prime Minister's question hour is a tradition in British Parliament and it never gets interrupted. In this particular case, Parliament was attacked recently, but Parliament was also attacked in 2001 when in a BJP government. The then Home Minister, Mr. L.K. Advani, made a statement on the floor of Parliament immediately thereafter. The then Prime Minister narrated how the opposition leader at that time, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, had immediately called him up to find out for his safety. And he said that in a country where the opposition and the government are united at such moments, that country can never fail.
Okay.
Today, I do not see that.
Okay. There is clearly a breakdown at various levels between the government and the opposition, both at the leadership and now increasingly even among our members of Parliament. And with suspensions, it appears that the situation, this breakdown of trust, has only widened. I appreciate my guest joining me on our top talking point tonight. Let me turn from there to our Friday night special, and it comes from the former Reserve Bank of India Governor Raghuram Rajan, who along with Rohit Lamba have written a book, Breaking the Mold, Reimagining India's Economic Future. I spoke to them at their book release here in the national capital, and they joined, interestingly, the debate over Revdi or freebies. Listen in. Ignited by Prime Minister Modi over the so-called Revdi culture. Because the other pattern across these states is every state competing with each other over so-called freebies. Now, first, there needs to be a clear definition of what is a freebie, what is welfareism. For example, many believe that for the BJP in Madhya Pradesh, what did the trick to win an election was the Ladli Behna scheme. Simple, 1,250 rupees by a DBT put in the accounts of all women below the poverty line. There were more than 1.10 crore women, and many believe that was the game changer. Now that's going to lead to every government saying, okay, you put, that happened in Madhya Pradesh. Kamal Nath said 1,500. Once Shivraj Singh Chauhan said 1,250, he said 1,500. Chauhan then doubled it, I'll give you 3,000. And that seems to be the pattern. Now, are these cash transfers the way forward in your view? Are they empowering? You do seem to suggest that at some level they do empower women in a household if she gets 1,250 rupees. Do you believe that? That's democracy. Politicians want to win elections. Raghuram Rajan and Rohit Lamba want to solve and want to look at India's economic future. The politician is looking, how do I win the next election? There's a mismatch.
No, so really we want to have the debate move towards, is this the best use of government money? And so to some extent we are saying yes, when it's targeted at the poorest households, it can help that poor household feed its kids better, dal instead of chawal, more protein, less cereal sometimes, which can be beneficial. Send them to, local school, which is non-government because the government teacher doesn't show up. That gives the school some competition, but gives the household some choice. So those are all positive effects that can allow poor households to invest in their people. The problem comes when this becomes much more untargeted and becomes a competition for who can give more, at which point you start bankrupting the government, right? So one example of what we think is a no-go area is converting the new pension scheme to the old pension scheme, which we think is a movement to transfer enormous amounts, which will surely make it very difficult to conduct development spending in a government.
But the Congress believes it won Himachal Pradesh on the old pension scheme.
No,
so suddenly the Congress was even saying we'll legislate to bring back the old pension scheme.
I think that therefore those kinds of schemes are poorly targeted because they targeted at a sector which is already doing reasonably well. You just said everybody wants to become a government official. Well, if they want to become a government official, even with the old pension scheme, it means, even with the new pension scheme, it means they're pretty happy with the kind of job security they're getting. Why go back to the old pension scheme and bankrupt the government down the line? So that's an example where we disagree with the kind of this thing, because it's very poorly targeted. But where it is well targeted, some is okay. But you have to be careful, because you don't want to extend it to a point where everybody thinks that's the way forward, and you're underinvesting in schools, underinvesting in healthcare, underinvesting in nutrition, all those good things that we talk about.
There's a very simple principle here that works, is that your transfer, Rajdeep, is a reverie, and my transfer is Jan Kalyan. So I think this is a problem. I think for economists, you're exactly right. There is a mismatch, and I think the mismatch comes through institutional checks and balances, right? So, and a very important role in this has to be played by intellectuals, the media, and so on, and continuously informing the public. Because it's all, and I was watching your coverage and the coverage of a lot of other people who were going to the ground and talking to people, and it's not as if the people don't understand. I saw lots of young people saying that how long can we do this? Yeah. That there's a fiscal arithmetic that you'll run up against. It's not as if but I think people need to be much more informed. I think the unfortunate thing is, I do think that as people, as all of us whose job is to inform people, we are failing at some level, because I think we are becoming prisoners of set instruments. And those set instruments, as you're rightly pointing out, have broadly come down to two. Dividing the pie of government jobs further and further into reservations, and asking for or pushing more and more sort of welfareism. And I think it's a real failure of imagination and also of communication that we are not able to expand the conversation beyond these two instruments. At this point, if we want to reach Amrit Kal, the youth should be demanding private sector jobs and demanding more,
And this is the dialogue change that we want. You're saying the dialogue is not here. We're saying yes. Therefore, we need to offer an alternative that people start talking about. Look, when we talk about freebies, I remember as governor, the problem I had was that state after state was declaring a total farm loan waiver. And I said, where is your money? They used to come, before the election, they'd promise the farm loan waiver. After the election, they'd come to me and say, sir, kaise karenge? And they used to say, please give us give us forbearance, don't call this an NPA, this, that, etc. Now, that is a problem where you don't look at what your budget can take, and state after state is getting into the problem. I think we also need to have independent institutions which rank all these promises. How does this add up, and what will you have to cut down the line? So these things come over time. They won't come immediately, but over time there'll be greater public recognition that if they promise all this, that means less for me, because I'm not going to get my better school, I'm not going to get better.
Which brings me to the contentious question. Do politicians listen to good advice?
Over time. Over time. Remember Keynes' famous statement that, all...
Particularly from economists, sorry, but go ahead.
Yeah, but Keynes' famous statement, all political action, they're slaves of some academic scribbler long ago. I think what happens is when you put the ideas out into the public domain, they get debated. Eventually some politician says, this is my good idea, and I will go and implement it. So you need them to take ownership. You need them to transform it a little bit so that it becomes their ownership, their idea. And then it gets implemented. I think the point is to put the ideas out for debate. And that's to some extent what we're trying to do with this book.
I think there's a little bit of, I would argue, political entrepreneurship lacking. Like if you read this fantastic biography of Deng Xiaoping by Ezra Vogel, I forget the last name. What comes out really is that Deng Xiaoping decided at some point that he needed to open up. But what was he a great political entrepreneur at was that at every step as he opened up the economy, he said, we are fulfilling Mao's dream. We are fulfilling Mao's dream. And he was dismantling every aspect of... and what comes out also very well in Vinay Sitapathi's brilliant biography of Narasimha Rao is how Narasimha Rao kind of also did this using Manmohan Singh as the, and he took advice from a set of serious economists and says, we are fulfilling Nehruvian vision of socialism in India, but he dismantled over a period of 3 years some very important laws that helped liberalize Indian economy. I think that requires a certain kind of political entrepreneurship to do what is supposed to be done, but take everyone along while doing it.
That's a huge challenge because, Indian politicians will often talk the good talk. particularly in gatherings like this, they'll talk about need for more governance, less government. When they go back, and particularly at election time, it just reverses. They talk about more government and less governance. I just therefore wonder whether you're going to need more political entrepreneurs. You've had a few. I mean, Chandrababu Naidu is one person who stands out for me. He saw the future. Go to Hyderabad today. You get a sense that compared to other cities, it's been a step, ahead of the curve. I just wonder you'll need many more such entrepreneurs who are willing to evangelize, take risks. Prime Minister Modi does take risks. I mean, and he has a huge majority government. I just wonder whether that makes him more suited to carrying forward the kind of dialogue or less suited because a majority government can also rapidly turn, according to critics, into an authoritarian government.
Well, I mean, I think that's the downside risk. The upside risk is he has the majority to implement a lot of what we talk about in the book. So, I mean, look, I think everybody wants the best for India. If there is a will to do it, wherever that will comes from, that's great. I think it will move forward at that point. But, to some extent, what we're talking about is a package deal. You need to do a whole bunch of things. You need the will to do that, but you also have to let go of power to some extent, because that's going to be the check and balance when you go off track.
Because there's been this huge debate whether coalition governments are better suited to take forward some of these reforms than majority governments. You went for Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra, and that stirred a controversy because that image of you and the two of you being interviewed, next thing we knew, then you were a Congress politician.
No, I've been a Congress politician for long, according to to at least.
So is that part of the, that engaging even with politicians today, or sort of trying to trigger a dialogue with them, leads you to being labeled one side or the other in a polarized society as we've become?
Well,
is it possible to have the kind of dialogue that you want in this book and really break the mold?
I think I've been open to dialogue with all. Few people remember that I advised Yashwant Sinha when he was part of the NDA. He was the NDA finance minister, and he even thanks me in his book. So
you're happy to have Chai Pe Charcha with Prime Minister Modi as well, right?
If anybody invites me to talk in any party, and I've had discussions with multiple parties, which I don't want to disclose on this thing, but it's all about how can I help you on your policies. I work with the DMK government in Chennai today. I have talked, of course, with the Congress party, but I've talked with other parties also. The point is, how can we move this country forward? And that's really what our common endeavor is.
Engage with the idea, not the identity.
Engage with the idea, not the identity. Rohit has recognized the importance of the one-liner. In the era of sound bites and in the era of social media, often misinterpreting what you say and do.
Be precise.
Okay, let's take a break at that point. When we return, we'll come back with our good news today story. There's always some good news, and we'll tell you what it is on the other side. You're watching the news today. News without the noise.
Get ready for an immersive journey into the heart of news, politics, and insights that matter. Join India Today now on WhatsApp. Scan the QR code. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. India Today Group sweeps the ITA 2023 awards. From Best English News Channel, India Today TV.
Popular English News Channel, the award goes to India Today.
To Best Hindi News Channel, Aaj Tak.
Popular Hindi News